This is Friday evening's Undercard. On our wrestling show today, Bobby Heenan's hurt, George Steele steals a guitar, and the Macho Man plays with a coffee creamer. Welcome, wrestling fan, to Friday evening's Undercard. I'm Gentleman John. He's electrifying Eric. Eric, how you doing, buddy?
Pretty good, man. How you doing?
I'm doing great this evening. All right, let's jump right in here. May 11th, 1987, primetime wrestling. Hilarious start to the show. You come in from the graphics, and you go to Gorilla, and he says, "I'm Gorilla Monsoon," and then they look over at Heenan, and he says, "And I'm hurting."
Heenan in neck brace, like, they really, if they've not made an action figure like that yet, they really should.
He did have to wear a neck brace a lot.
That's as much part of his, ensemble as weasel costumes and sparkly jackets.
Absolutely.
And the problem, too, is, I'm now conditioned. Anytime I see somebody wearing one of those, I question whether they're actually hurt.
Oh, yeah. You just immediately think about Bobby Heenan or Jim Cornette or something like that.
Yeah. And it's not like, if somebody's wearing, the hard neck brace.
Yeah, you know that's for real.
You're messed up. Or if you got, the screws coming out of your head, that's all right. That's legit. But, if I see you in the soft neck brace, I genuinely question whether or not you were hurt. And full disclosure, when I had neck surgery, they gave me one of those. And when I wore it, I just had my neck ripped open. Even I wondered, is this a work or is this a shoot?
Is this a work? Do I really need to wear this?
Yeah, do I really need to wear this? But yeah, once again, you could have given anybody a fake neck brace. But Bobby Heenan just takes it to that next level.
Bobby Heenan sells it.
Yeah, there's just, once again, I know this is going to sound like we're, beating the same drum over and over again, but some of the greatest work comedically in television history is Bobby the Brain Heenan.
Absolutely.
Not just in pro wrestling. I'm talking any form of entertainment of that era.
Well, and, going back to Dark Side of the Ring, Heenan would be a good one to see on Dark Side of the Ring, too. Although, my gosh, there's probably 500 stories that you could run on that show for the next 20 years if they wanted to.
Oh yeah, they're not gonna, if they continue that show, they're not running out of content.
No, they're not running out of content ever. They might run out of eyewitnesses to interview. That's a possibility, but they're not going to run out of content.
No, but yeah, once again, a really good opening. I even like that Heenan, he even forces a demand to how they're doing the show, because he can't turn around and watch the high tech TV screen like he normally does. That's just, it's like with Heenan, it's not so much the big things he does, it's the little subtle touches that he did in his character that I think made him so great.
Well, and, during the intro there, I'm sure you popped when they had that little line where it was and the one bright spot was the Fuji Muraco.
Oh, well, I think the listeners know my feelings of Fuji and Muraco.
Some of the finest television ever.
Oh, absolutely, no doubt. So let's, so I guess now that we got through the intro, should we get into the matches?
Yeah. First match of the night, you had Bret Hart and Davey Boy. Bret Hart versus Davey Boy, even. Jim Neidhart and Jimmy Hart in Bret's corner, and you obviously had Dynamite in Davey's corner.
And don't forget about Matilda.
And Matilda, who attacked Jimmy Hart, because who else?
And, this is kind of an interesting preview, because, of course, this is actually going to one day main event a major WWE pay-per-view between these two.
Yes. I had to think for a second, wait, is he talking about the tag teams or who's he talking about? And then I kind of, it clicked that you're talking about Bret and Davey.
Yeah. So, this is kind of interesting that we see this, this matchup kind of early, but a preview to what we're going to see 5 years later.
Absolutely. And just to briefly run it over, you got Vince, Jesse, and Bruno on commentary. This is from Superstars taping, April 23rd of 87, and from Worcester, Massachusetts.
There's a good classic WWE venue.
Drew 9,800 people. Was a sellout. Do you have anything really about the match? I mean, it was a good match. Obviously, you had some mentions of Ken Patera and Hercules and stuff like that. Davey hits some of his moves. Brett hits some of his moves, and then Danny Davis interferes.
It's relatively a short match. I mean, we're talking maybe 5-6 minutes, but there's a lot that they put into it. I think it didn't seem overbooked. It worked. I didn't have any problems with the match.
Yeah, no, I thought it was a good match, good solid match.
So I guess we can probably move on next down the card.
Yeah, next match, real barn burner. Paul Roma against Steve Lombardi.
I think you can ask any wrestling fan, where were you on certain days? Where were you when Flair beat Harley Race? Where were you when Hulk slammed Andre? Where were you when Austin christened Austin 316? And I think people often ask, where were you when Paul Roma wrestled Steve Lombardi?
I know I asked that.
I ask everybody that question. I mean, everybody says who?
For those who don't know, who aren't in the know, this match was recorded on March the 14th of 1987 in Philadelphia at the old Spectrum in front of 16,943 people. I would legitimately ask, when is the last time WWE drew a crowd of 17,000 not at a pay-per-view?
That's a good question.
And almost more specifically than that, not at a Big Four pay-per-view.
Yeah, I mean, and also, you think too nowadays, if WWE's running a venue that size, it's going to be for a television taping, and of some kind. So, yeah, I think that's pretty remarkable. That just tells you how hot wrestling was at that time.
Yeah, well, I mean, they run the Garden for the house shows.
I mean, we went to the one. That was a good crowd.
Although apparently, they are going back there this year for a Raw. I forget when it is.
Oh, that'd be nice.
And they may actually do Raw SmackDown back to back.
But yeah, I think, what does it say about this match? They're talking about everything other than the match.
Oh, yeah. And one other comment about the crowd. So arguably the best WWE pay-per-view possibly the last 10 years, Money in the Bank 2011. I just looked this up. They only had 14,000 people for that.
Wow.
And that's with CM Punk in the hottest commodity in the world in Chicago. So, yes, I would say it has been a very long time since they drew 17,000 people to a show that was not at least associated with a Big Four pay-per-view.
Right.
Because obviously they sold out the Barclays Center for Raw and SmackDown after Mania, but I don't know how many that holds when they put the humongous setup anyway. But so anyway, back to the match against the Brooklyn Brawler going against a member of the Four Horsemen.
Well, can we put the asterisks beside that? Because nobody in the Horsemen considers Paul Roma a horseman.
Yeah, but surely he's just as good as like Sid Vicious, isn't he? Because Sid was a horseman.
Yeah, but at least Sid contributed to the group.
Yeah, either way, with the Horsemen, once you get away from those, first 4 or 5, you're starting to,
yeah, it gets a little tough after that. Although, the run they had in the Nitro era, was not a bad lineup of the Horsemen.
That is very true.
Yeah, that was not a bad lineup, actually. I think, if anything, it was just wasted in WCW in the 1990s.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, that was not a bad lineup necessarily.
No. The commentators on this one, Dick Graham and Ken Resnick.
Oh, there's your A team right there.
Yeah, I don't, honestly, I don't know if I've heard of either one of them. Oh, but there was actually one spot from this match that I thought was pretty cool, and it was from the commentators even. Lombardi, Roma shoots Lombardi off into the corner, and Lombardi goes down and does the spot where you go through the top and the middle rope and you hit your shoulder on the ring post. Their call for that was that Lombardi was trying to duck so that he didn't go sternum first into the top rope. And I was like, that actually kind of makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah, I would think so.
And so he tried to miss it. He tried to miss the buckle and then, hit the ring post because he, couldn't get out of the way or whatever. But at least it makes sense, because otherwise it's just a move that doesn't make sense.
But yeah, I mean, pretty much, I don't know. I don't really know what else we can say about this match, to be honest.
For those who are really wondering, Paul Roma wins with a top rope sunset flip.
There we go. Moving
on. You get an update next that Ken Patera will be going against Hercules. Funny story about this match. They recorded it at Superstars on whatever day of the week it was. They recorded the match at Superstars. Apparently it was so bad that Vince made him come back the next night on the Wrestling Challenge taping and record it there.
Well, and I think too, when we look at an update, give Bobby Heenan credit. Some of the bumps that he took, some pretty tough bumps.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. That one where Patera got the belt around his neck and threw him across the ring, that looked rough. That looked like he may have legit needed that neck brace.
Yeah, I mean, it's the more I've gone back and watched some of the bumps he's taken in his career, man, that's some pretty rough stuff. But I mean, once again, it was building a story here. I mean, of course, it's not going to pay off with Patera like I think they thought, but if you're trying to get a guy over as a babyface and one that you hope could be a top tier babyface, you put him with Heenan.
Oh yeah,
that's the way you do it.
Immediately over as a heel.
So I think it just the story. We know it doesn't pan out, but I mean, frankly, at this time, this is pretty solid booking. I mean, you're putting Patera with Heenan, and it's a good story.
And I gotta say, I don't know if Hercules was the best choice for who to go against Patera, because I don't think Herc has ever been known as some incredible wrestler who could carry somebody.
Mm.
And I'm sure Patera wasn't taking no bumps in prison, so I probably would have put my first match against somebody other than Herc. I would have, yeah. But that's just me.
All right, so moving on.
Okay, so next match is Sika against Pete Doherty, who is apparently the Duke of Dorchester. I have no idea where that came from.
Well, that's I mean, kind of pretty. I mean, it was a decent match. I think the one thing that I noticed was, how much blood was in that ring?
Yes. So I was actually going to go with that. I was just going to give a quick finish on the match, and then we'll get into some other stuff that was going on outside the ring. Sika wins with a Samoan drop. Go figure, a Samoan won with a Samoan drop. But okay, so the show was at the Boston Garden, May 2nd of 87. 11,834 people in attendance. It was Hayes and Monsoon on the commentary. Did you see up on the scoreboard, it said, "Welcome Pete Doherty Fan Club"?
Yes.
I had to laugh. I wonder if that was something that Vince had him put up there, or if that was legit. That there was legitimately a Pete Doherty fan club, because I've never heard of the guy.
I think we need to start doing? Anytime I go to a minor league baseball game or any sporting event, they'll put your group up on the Jumbotron. I think I'm going to tell them that the Pete Doherty fan club is in attendance that evening. And if anybody attends that event and pops for that, I'll give them a crisp $20 bill.
Yeah, that would be funny. Or just go to, like small time events like that and just troll them up on the commentary.
Actually, should we start selling Pete Doherty fan club T-shirts?
Maybe.
I mean, I think like if anybody would like, the problem is nobody would know what it's about, but the people that did, it's like one of those things where like, yeah, I gotta spend $25 on that.
One other thing about the match, and then we'll get to the blood that's on the canvas. Did you hear a boring chant right at the end of the match?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. I was making sure I wasn't the only one that heard that, because I'm like, I played it back like 3 or 4 times, and I've got like my headphones on, and I'm like pressing them into my ears and stuff. I'm like trying to figure out what's going on. I'm like, did they really do that? In 1987, did they really start yelling boring?
Yeah, so just for our Attitude Era fans, you did not invent that.
Yeah, you didn't invent that.
Yeah, it's Boston. They've been chanting that since Bunker Hill.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, so back to the blood in the ring.
So the blood on the canvas. So my first note was like, wow, there's blood on the ring canvas. And I'm like, this is really different from the day, because now they use a different canvas for every match. So, you go there, you go to a Raw taping, and you see them taking the ring canvas off after every match.
Mm-hmm.
So I went and looked it up. Hulk Hogan and Harley Race had a match earlier in the night, and Race attacked him and hit him with something and just blew Hogan up. I tried to actually go back and find footage of the match. I won't say I looked like terribly hard. It is probably out there. But yeah, Harley Race busted Hogan open.
Yeah, so that's something I'm not gonna say you'll never see that in a WWE ring ever again. Like a ring in that condition for the immediate match after.
Yeah, for the rest of the show, because I think even when Eddie Guerrero got busted open so bad that one time, they just they peeled the canvas off, and next match you're out there and it's clean.
Yeah. Yeah, so I guess there's really not much else to say about this match.
No,
really.
That's pretty much it. But I tell you what, there is something to say about the next segment of the show. Is your favorite of all time?
Oh yes, yes, yeah.
Fuji and Don Muraco doing stand-up comedy.
If Richard Pryor and Jerry Seinfeld were able to be like melded together to create a stand-up comedian, and then there were twins, it would be this. These are two of the greatest comedic minds in the history of comedy.
Just unbelievable.
The timing, the technique, just magnificence. That's all I can say.
And then you've got Okerlund and Alfred Hayes over to the side. Like, I wonder if they just weren't smartened up to what was going to happen, and you just let's put the cameras on them and see what they do.
Yeah, and of course Fuji talking about tropical humor. It's good stuff all around. And I think that's where what I've enjoyed about going back and watching this. Actually, my favorite parts of the shows aren't so much the matches; it's everything else about primetime wrestling.
Yeah, it's getting to see the actual personalities.
Yeah, and I think just the way that they let Monsoon and Heenan and even Okerlund and these guys just kind of, I know some of it's scripted, but a lot of it just sort of feels off the cuff, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. Apparently that's what they were saying, the commentators used to do. They weren't told what was going to happen. They were just given the only format that they were given was that wrestler A is going to go against wrestler B, and that's all they knew.
Yeah, and I think this is where I think there's a ongoing debate today about what is wrong with WWE television today. And I think part of it, I understand you have to have a certain level of scripting, but I think the challenge is scripts can sometimes, I think, sort of stifle a talent. I mean, imagine Steve Austin getting material today.
Or Randy Savage.
Or Randy Savage, yeah. I mean, or Ric Flair, you know. I think, or even The Rock. I mean, we think about all these guys are great on the mic. You give them basically, hey, this is what we want you to kind of cover, this is what we want you to go over, figure out how to do it. And I think what it does is sometimes, hey, it works, sometimes it doesn't work, but it does lead to gold when done right. And I think that was why this was so good, because it had this sort of feel of it was not scripted.
Yeah, and that actually goes back to kind of two things that I've talked about online recently. When you compare today's WWE to WWF from 1997 or WWF from 1987 or from 1977 even, or World Class from 1984 or Memphis Forever, what's the difference in what you see in WWE now compared to what was there then?
Mm-hmm.
The one thing that they don't have now, there's no superstar.
Mm-hmm.
There is no superstar in WWE right now.
Yeah.
There's no Hulk Hogan. There's no Jerry Lawler. There's no Junkyard Dog. There's no Von Erich.
No Bruno.
No Bruno. And,
Well, and I think the closest that we've had recently, I think you could point to moments with Becky Lynch. And I think for a lot of that, she was able to be herself on her social media. That's what carried that. Not so much super hot promos.
Yeah, and then they dragged it out for so long and just everybody stopped caring.
Yeah, and I think that's where, and I think this also goes back to, yeah, you got a lot of guys that probably, and women, guys and girls that enter NXT that might have been on the independent scene. But it wasn't like it was in years past where you had to just constantly learn how to get over to a new crowd. And I think that creates just natural improvisation skills that work. And I wonder, a talent today, if you just said, hey, this is what we want you to get over, do it.
Well, and
I wonder how many could actually do it.
And that actually goes to something else compared to indies and WWE now. Do you watch that Netflix show Glow?
Yes. Yeah.
So, have you seen the whole first season?
Yeah.
Okay, so when they did like the first card in the gym and they get the women coming out as like the Klansmen.
Yeah.
So, obviously they end up in like the production meeting later on, and they're basically just like, yeah, that's not going to play on TV. You know that, right? And so that's so much of what you see in independent wrestling nowadays is they do stuff that, well, yeah, sure, it'll get over for the 100 people that are in attendance there. But that stuff's not going to fly on national TV.
And also,
why do you think no major wrestling promotion in America has hired Joey Ryan?
Yeah.
That nonsense. You're not showing that on. You're not putting that Friday night on Fox on SmackDown.
Well, and I mean, I think like some of the stuff you see on Independence, it's cheap heat. Any idiot can come out in a Klan robe and get booed. That's not your character that's doing that.
Yeah, that's just that you're getting like go away heat.
Yeah, that's 150 years of idiots and a lot of pent up anger and aggression that people have towards that. That's what that is. That's not you. Like, you could put any performer in a Klan robe and they're going to get booed out of the building.
Absolutely.
It's another thing going out wearing just a pair of red tights and white boots and getting that entire audience to hate. That's a different story. And I think that's what we don't have. We don't have those heels that just know how to really generate heat.
And another thing that is so much different now than it was in the past, and this goes for the independents too, because there's nowhere that pays people like the old school way of paying people, where you were paid as a percentage of the gate. No, you're getting your guarantee. Like, you know, Wrestler X is getting his $2,000 whether you get 200 people in the building or 2,000. And so that's especially the case with WWE because, well, they've got the $1 billion from Fox for the next 5 years. They don't really have to care.
And they get their boatload of cash from the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia.
You know, I do feel surely Fox has a way out of that deal if their ratings just go through the toilet, right? But, you know, because the show it's replacing on Friday night is drawing like a 7.
Yeah.
So surely they're expecting it to draw a 7 or better, which now it's drawing, what, like a 2?
Yeah, you know, and the only thing I can think of that could be good, and of course, we look back at the Attitude Era, I think, with very much rose-colored glasses. There's a lot of crappy booking and just terrible storylines in the Attitude Era. But we had so much, like, nuggets of gold that overshadows that. It's like you find, you know, a nugget of gold in a big piece of crap. You ignore all the crap that's around it because you just found this nugget of gold.
Well, it goes back to the superstar thing. You had arguably 3 really top-tier superstars on the card with Austin, Rock, and Vince.
Yeah.
And that's what drew. Like, nobody cared about the stuff that was going on at, you know, 8:45 at night. They were caring about the opening segment with McMahon and Austin and the closing segment with something.
And also, let's forget about the talent that we did not mention there. At one time, you had Taker, you had Shawn Michaels, you had Bret Hart. Like, that's a pretty stacked talent deck there.
It is, but in all seriousness, I don't think any of those guys were at the superstar level of Austin, Hogan, Bruno, Jerry Lawler in Memphis, that sort of thing.
And I think what we have also, I think with that time in the Attitude Era, you had Austin, who was maybe the most over guy ever for a period of time. Like 97, 98, Austin. As far as just being over, I don't know. There's not pops like that anywhere else.
No.
And I think you were also, I think if you would say who's the greatest heel in wrestling history, I think you can make a really compelling case it's Vince McMahon.
Absolutely.
And so you had the most over, in this case, I use sort of air quotes, face in Austin, even though he kind of was always a tweener in some respects, against the most compelling heel ever. And that's just, that's perfect. So you can shove a lot of crap in between that. And people are like, oh, it's the greatest episode ever. Those episodes are better than Raw today. And, are they really?
Well,
or is it just you have really good segments that overshadow the rest?
And so that's the whole thing is like back then they had to do stuff to get better because they weren't making the money from TV then. They weren't paying for TV like most people were, but they weren't making the money from TV. They were making the money from the gate at the building, and they were making it from pay-per-view. And so they had to get people to buy, and now they don't have to do that. They've got this guaranteed money coming in from TV. They've got however much from the network, and I would be interested to see a breakdown because they know this. How many people watch WWE Network and never watch a program that was released before date X?
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I think, too, the one saving grace we might have is, I read today that there could be, the announcement of AEW's TV deal. And if that is a legit TV deal, like we're talking TBS or TNT, that's pretty serious. This is not, TNA on, Spike.
Yeah, yeah. I've been hearing kind of rumors about it going to TNT or TBS, one of the old Turner companies.
Yeah, and I think what we would see, to Vince's credit, he was forced to adapt. And of course, I don't think Vince is going to really be the one to do it now, but I think there will be people in that writing team, and the talent's going to be forced to adapt.
But see, at the end of the day, it's still going to be Vince because everything has to get run by him unless you finally get somebody who, you know, whatever, they just get out there on the mic and go into business for themselves and say, you know what, I really don't care, but as long as you put a microphone in my hand, I'm going to say what I'm going to say, and I'm going to get over, and I'm going to get the business over. You know, but I don't think anybody's going to do that.
Yeah, I think it will be interesting. I hope that maybe we will see a shifting, but, you know, we'll see. As long as you make the point, as long as Vince is in charge of storylines, we can never say anything definitively. But you never know. I mean, Vince has done well when his back is against the wall, even though it's not per se. But I think Vince actually does well with competition.
You know, I wonder legitimately how much they're going to try to actually compete with Vince. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you know, I think one thing we see though is, I mean, already like WWE's locking talent down, so that I think we don't have like the Lex Luger showing up on Nitro moment.
Yeah.
And so we will see. But man, that was a good tangent, but some good stuff there.
But you know, in all seriousness, some of these guys that are disgruntled, you know, show up.
Yeah.
You know, I said that what Luke Harper should do is buy a front row ticket. I mean, I'm sure they're available on StubHub. Get a front row ticket to Double or Nothing and sit there with an AEW shirt on and just see what happens.
Yeah.
You're like, hey, you can't stop me from buying a ticket, can you?
Yeah. You know, I mean, and I think too, the difference between I think some of the talent today, it's the talent. What do the writers have for me? The writers don't have anything for me. And I think what you saw in the '90s is talent at times were given really crappy gimmicks, and they made it work. Like that's the difference. Like you were given that opportunity and you ran with it. And I think also for the most part too, the talent was given a little more freedom, I think, to do that. So I think there has to be a give and take, and hopefully we'll see, you know, a little bit of loosening of the reins, and you know maybe a little better product coming out because the talent's there. It's not that WWE doesn't have talent in their locker room. It's just, you know, like anything, it's what do you do with that talent?
Yeah.
But speaking of talent,
got some
Intercontinental title time.
Yeah, got some pretty good talent in this match. You've got Hercules against Ricky Steamboat. This actually got covered on one of the episodes that I recorded when you weren't here because it was Saturday night's main event.
Right.
It's actually pretty good. I mean, it does a lot to get over the Ricky Steamboat Macho Man feud. I mean, that's really what it is. Hercules is just sort of a pawn in the whole thing.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I think, you know, it shows that you put, like, you know, we talked about Hercules earlier of Ken Patera. You put Hercules in a match with Ricky Steamboat, Steamboat's going to get a good match out of you.
Yes.
And I think that's where, you know, there's certain guys, you put them in a ring with somebody, they're going to get a good match out of them. You know, whether or not it's Flair, it's Steamboat, it's Bret Hart, you know, or, hey, Macho Man is another one.
Yeah, absolutely.
They're going to get a good match out of you. So, yeah, I think you really see that here. And I think that's, to me, I mean, when we really look at these all-time greats, it's not so much technically what they could do in the ring, but being able to get good matches out of okay to average workers and make them look like $1 million. That's a skill that only a handful of professional wrestlers have really had to do that at an elite level.
Yeah, you know, there's not really many people that can do that now.
No.
They're just all sort of trained in the same style, and they all just do these whatever. They just rehearse everything in the back. And, you know, one of the best things about this match with Herc and Steamboat was the cut-ins to the back where Macho was sitting back there looking on the TV screen.
Oh, yeah.
The TV screen that obviously looked like it just either had a test pattern or just the gray thing on it. It didn't actually look like he was sitting there watching it. Because I guess during this time, I mean, certainly they would have had monitors because the announcers have always looked at the monitors, so they would have had a live feed coming from the
Right.
cameras, but I guess they just didn't set it up in the locker room.
No, and I mean, but we've covered it. I mean, I think some good stuff there. Should we probably just move on?
Yeah, that's fine. If you're getting this one for the first time, it gets a DQ win for Steamboat because basically Macho interfered because he wanted Steamboat to keep the belt. All right. Next up,
And
we get a manager match. Brutus Beefcake against Johnny V.
and this is interesting because this is really the debut, or very close to it, of the gimmick most associated with Brutus Beefcake.
You mean the Booty Man is not his most associated gimmick?
Well, it's out of that or the Zodiac.
What was he called when he was working as Hulk's brother?
Wasn't he?
Was it Randy? Randy Hogan?
Yeah, it's some Hogan. Yeah, whatever. Yeah.
But yes, this should, I think, be it's pretty much the right at the debut time of the Barber gimmick, which obviously comes out from WrestleMania 3, where he helped cut Adonis's hair.
And of course, too, we don't have the hedge clippers. We've actually got like actual scissors.
Yeah, it's actual scissors and clippers.
We're seeing this thing getting refined. We're seeing the origins of, and actually, I mean, of actually probably one of the more memorable gimmicks in WWE history from this era.
Yeah. I mean, it probably is. And this was at the same TV taping that they did earlier from the. Was the one earlier from Worcester? Let me look here. Yeah, Worcester. Yeah, from Worcester, Mass. On April 23rd. 9,800 people packed in attendance.
So yeah, I mean, I don't think there's really much per se. I mean, Johnny V's going to get a mohawk.
Yeah, he gets like a weird, like almost like a mullet mohawk too.
Yeah,
because it's like they kept his back like the same length and just like cut that little like part, out of the sides. But yeah, Brutus wins it with a sleeper. It was a pretty quick match, and then he shaved his head. And at the end of the match, didn't like the referee like make Brutus go over and like wake him up?
I think so. Yeah,
I think that happened. It may have been another one I watched, but I think it was this one where he's like, "No, you have to go over there and you have to wake him up," which is just hilarious.
Yeah, I mean, but yeah, pretty. It started to advance the gimmick. Yeah, it did its job. So I think we could probably move on to next match.
Yeah, Honky Tonk Man against George Steele, because this is the main event contest that I know everybody wants.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, whatever. It went 15 to 20 seconds. George Steele was disqualified for bringing the guitar into the ring.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think we can really say much because, frankly, I think what stands out about this episode above all else, May 11th, 1987, is one of the most famous promos in wrestling history.
Oh, yeah. I was actually going to say something about the Steele match real quick, though.
Ah, well.
Because
we've talked about it longer than it actually took place.
Well, I know. We've absolutely done that. So it was at a wrestling challenge taping. But what was hilarious is, so they announced that Heenan couldn't be there because he was injured, right? So they had the guest commentators. So here you had Ron Bass, because this was from the May 10th episode. Well, apparently on the May 3rd episode of Wrestling Challenge, the guest commentator was George Steele.
Wow.
Yeah, wow. I really want to try to find a copy of that episode because I cannot imagine how that went. I can't. I'm at a loss for words for how that could have possibly gone.
Well, it would not have been the technical masterpiece that we're about to witness.
No. George would not have had the skills on the mic as Macho Man, because this is the famous Macho Man Cream Will Rise to the Top promo. And it is also the first time that we have got a legit Macho Man promo on Primetime Wrestling.
Yes. And I mean, this is like, if there's a wrestling promo Mount Rushmore. Is this one of the ones we put up there?
Yeah, it's got to be close. I mean, it's right up there with 316 and stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're saying, obviously you got Austin 316. You've got to do one of Flair's promos up there for something, but this is one that, I mean, like, frankly,
Dusty Rhodes, Hard Times.
Yeah, I mean, I still see, like, on the internet, gifs of this popping up every now and then. Like, this is still iconic. Like, I cannot look at a coffee creamer.
No.
Ever again. Like, actually, I've thought about bringing coffee creamers to work with me in my pocket sometimes.
And just pulling them out randomly?
And just pull them out. And, like, the cream rises to the top. I think the problem is you got to start talking like Randy Savage.
Yeah, that would be really weird.
The cream rises to the top.
Yeah, I know.
They're like, what is this guy talking about? Like, if I just start pulling coffee creamers out and start talking like Randy Savage, somebody's going to get it.
Well, like, where would be, like, the perfect place on the battlefield to do that? To have that, like, in your jacket pocket and just pull it out and be like, and, and they won, and the cream was rising to the top, yeah.
I don't know. I might do it right before George Meade gets command of the Army of the Potomac. Because it is kind of the cream rising to the top, I don't know. I don't know how I would do that. I actually have a fellow guy and I were both big wrestling fans. We've actually thought about doing an entire program, like, with figures from the Battle of Gettysburg in pro wrestling personas.
Nice.
Yeah, it's one of those things that, like, it would get really, really into the weeds, and I don't know how many people would get it, but we would have a good time doing it. So, and maybe that's where I have the creamer right there. Who knows?
I actually know somebody from New York who was a comic book animator, and I feel like that's probably something you could pitch him. Like, you and your guy there could write the comics, and he could go in there and make make like the match outlines and stuff.
Yeah, I mean, like, we constantly talk about the need for guide robes. Like, we're not coming out in our guide uniforms. We're wearing robes and intro music as we meet our groups.
Absolutely. Anyway, like, back to the show.
Yeah, enough about what I do, to pay my mortgage.
So, 6-man tag match. Nikolai Volkov, Iron Sheik, and the Natural Butch Reed against Paul Roma. Woo, 4 horsemen. Jim Powers and
Jumpin' Jim Powers.
And Joe Murto, who I don't know.
Joe Murto sighting.
Yeah.
Hey, fans listening at home, please put in the comments your favorite Joe Murto match for us.
Yes.
Because we may put together a special 2.5-minute Joe Murto appreciation episode.
Yes.
Maybe.
You're probably going to have to go watch a lot of episodes of Wrestling Challenge and Superstars.
Yeah.
And he's probably going to lose a lot.
Now, see, this is one, like, one of my favorite tag teams as a kid was actually Doom. Of course, that was not a WWE team. But, of course, Butch Reed and Ron Simmons. And so, yeah, I've always kind of had a soft spot for Butch Reed. I mean, just a powerful, big guy. Like, it legitimately looks like you don't want to mess with him.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Butch Reed's a big guy. He actually did pretty much the last feud that Superstar Billy Graham ever did in wrestling. It was Butch Reed that he was going against.
But, yeah, I mean, I don't know really how much to really say totally about the match.
No, I actually don't have any notes. My notes read, quick match, heels won, Murto took fall.
Yeah, I do think, though, this is a prime example of 1980s wrestling not aging well. In the end, when, the good Reverend, the Dr. Styles Slick, does the Soviet anthem.
Yes.
When Gorilla Monsoon says there's a lynching that should be in order
for
the Alpha performance.
I don't remember that.
Yeah, go back and watch that one. That does not age well,
No,
folks.
that wouldn't age well. I don't remember hearing that one. I would have certainly noted that, and probably groaned for a couple of minutes too.
But yeah, just we could actually do an entire podcast about wrestling not aging well.
Yes, just random comments. That's like, yeah, that doesn't sound right.
Yeah, and I think what we could do is just like send it to various companies and be like, "This is what you don't do."
Yeah.
Like, just don't do that. So, but yeah, we can. I think we can definitely keep moving here.
Yeah. Next on the show was it's a Can-Am Connection interview. Do you have anything about that? I didn't write down anything about it. It's just kind of a standard interview. I don't even remember really what they said.
I just said they talked about developing new moves and techniques. Like, who says that in an interview? Like, that's just yeah.
It's about all you got.
Yeah, pretty much.
And last match of the night, Bob Orton and Don Muraco. It's the first time we've seen Don Muraco wrestle. We've been seeing him on the show every week, doing his sketches or whatever you want to call them. Brilliance, utter brilliance. Should have got an Emmy.
No, he should have had every award imaginable.
Speaking of an Emmy, did you hear that like one of the producers or directors or whatever she was for WWE won like an actual Emmy award for directing like a documentary film?
Really?
Yeah. So it was an Amazon documentary, and she actually won like an Emmy for it. And apparently she brought like her trophy to work and put it on her desk. And I guess like some of the people at the office like didn't really like that. And I was like, yeah, that's because they're jealous because every one of them have been looking to try to get an Emmy for this fake WWE stuff and they've never been able to do it. And she actually goes out and does like real something and gets what they've just delusioned about for years. But anyway, Bob Orton and Muraco with Fuji in the corner against the Rougeos with Bruno and Jesse on commentary.
Yeah, I thought it was a solid match. Kind of a weak finish, but
yeah, I mean honestly, I don't have a lot of notes. Just it was kind of an old style tag match, worked good.
Yeah,
Jacques keeps coming into the ring, and Raymond still keeps the heat on him over in the corner, and hot tag, big comeback, and gets shut down. Then Orton and Muraco got DQ'd. How did they get DQ'd? I didn't write that down.
Oh, it's basically it's just like the heels gang up on Jock, and the ref just loses control and just calls it disqualification.
No, and just throws it out. Okay, yeah. I think I was watching this pretty late at night and was probably spent by the time I got to this point.
Yeah, but that kind of wraps up this episode.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. I don't remember if Heenan and Monsoon came back and had anything to say. I mean, I didn't note anything, so I don't think they did.
Yeah, no. I mean, overall though, I would say this has probably been the best episode of the ones I've watched up to this point.
Yeah. I
would admit that. Of just like pure entertainment. I mean, I think of course, just the interaction with Monsoon and Heenan. I mean, of course you got Fuji Muraco, and of course you've got maybe one of the greatest wrestling promos of all time on it.
Yeah. And the way he just like kept finding those coffee creamers was great. Like he stuck the one in Gene's jacket.
Oh yeah,
when he put it on his head, like that was the best.
Yeah, just like
and like
just brilliant.
That line wasn't scripted.
No, nobody's writing that line.
Because it's like he puts it on his head and then he falls off, and it's like on balance, off balance doesn't matter. I'm still better than you.
Yeah, it's just a good. I mean, this was a good, solid episode. I mean, it advanced some feuds, advanced some storylines. It did its job. So
I'm honestly still wondering where they're going with this, with the Don Muraco acting stuff. I have no idea where they're going with this.
I think a lot of it, I mean, you think about it in the history of WWE, they've always had comedy acts. You got to have that little comedic relief. And I think that's part of it. And you never know. I mean, sometimes you try to give something to a character, and maybe he breaks out in it, and it spins off in a completely different way than you expected. So that's kind of my thought with what they were probably doing with that. And also, it's just so gloriously bad. It's amazing.
Yeah, but I mean, the truth is Muraco was getting pretty old at this point. I mean, I think he was at least 40.
Yeah.
He'd been around a while, so.
And it's also, I mean, hey, if he can't just go in the ring like he used to, let him do something else.
That's true.
There's always something for somebody. So, but yeah, that's about all I have for this one.
Yeah, I don't.
No, I think we can go ahead and close this thing down.
Yeah, shut it down. Fans out there, we appreciate you listening. Getting this far. Talk to you later.